All right, my friends, now it's time to talk about Gi-Zyme, the new improved Gi-Zyme. This is something that I said back in 2004 when I was doing a lecture on digestive enzymes. And because everybody's used to saying, you are what you eat. That's not true. If you eat and it passes through, well, that's no value. You are what you eat, digest, and absorb. If you don't digest it and absorb it, there wasn't much point in eating it. And if you don't have sufficient enzymes to get that job done, guess what's not going to happen? You're not going to be getting the nutrition from the food you've just eaten. So, if you don't have enough digestive enzyme, if you eat a food for which you don't have an enzyme, a corresponding enzyme to break it down, you're not going to feel good. You're going to have gas and bloating are the most common things. You may have heartburn. You may have constipation. You could have diarrhea. You could have it on the other end of the scale. And intolerances and food sensitivities very often are only a lack of an enzyme. And the best illustration of that is lactose. So lactose, a sugar that naturally occurs in milk, requires an enzyme called lactase to break down that sugar. If you ingest something with lactose, so milk, cheese, whatever, and you don't have lactase, you're not going to feel good. You're going to have gas and bloating and cramping and who knows, all kinds of associated problems. And that's because you're missing the enzyme to break it down. It's that simple. It's not an allergy. It's just a sensitivity because you don't have the enzyme to break it down. Well, what kind of enzymes do you need? Literally, there are thousands of enzymes in the body. What we're talking about right now are digestive groups. So lipase is a type of enzyme that breaks down lipids, which is a scientific way of saying fat, okay? So lipase breaks down fat. Protease breaks down proteins. Carbohydrate breaks down all manner of carbohydrates, including sugars, including things like glycans, right? Those have to be broken down with carbohydrates. The most common carbohydrates that you'll see typically is amylase. Sometimes you'll see invertase, and sometimes cellulase. We'll talk about those in a few moments. Lactase, of course, is the enzyme that breaks down lactose. And if you break down the lactose, you don't have any symptoms. You don't feel uncomfortable, gas, bloating, all that stuff. It doesn't happen. And remember, in the very beginning of this presentation, I said, if you're lacking the enzyme necessary to digest the food that you just ate, doesn't matter what the food is, then you're going to feel unpleasant. If you have the enzyme you need, well, then you're going to digest that and probably do just fine. All right, my friends, now it's time for us to take a sort of a snapshot, kind of an overall look at the digestive system, particularly as it relates to pH. You know, there's a lot of people right now that are thinking in absolutes. So you need to be all alkaline, right? Well, no, actually you don't, and by the way, you can't. Your body won't allow you to, because if you went all alkaline, you wouldn't survive, okay? Now, I'm not arguing against alkaline this or alkaline that, but rather I want to tell you how the digestive tract is designed to work. The stomach produces acid because it must. It's part of your design. It has a purpose. In fact, you have these little pumps, thousands of little pumps on the inside of your stomach, on the internal part of the lining. The only job they have is to pump out acid. Now, if you use an over-the-counter pharmaceutical or a prescription pharmaceutical, and you're doing this for acid reflux, for heartburn, what these drugs do is they kill those pumps. They literally destroy the pumps. Now, the pumps are so important to your health. The acid in your stomach is so important that your body will make all of the pumps all over again, replenish them all in 24 hours, which is why you have to take those drugs every 24 hours, okay? The reason that people are having heartburn, there are many reasons for that. But certainly one of them is because you're not digesting your food correctly, and one of them is people eating too much food, but there's a list of issues. Well, we'll talk about digestion, obviously, during this segment. So what I want you to notice is the stomach has to have a pH of between 1 and 3. Now, beneath the stomach is this little pocket called the duodenum. Now, there you need a pH of around 4.5. And then when you go down into the intestines, now you need to start getting a lot more alkaline, going to 5, and then you get all the way down to the sigmoid colon at the bottom. You need to be all the way down to an alkalinity level pH of 8, okay? So you need to have different levels of pH as you go down. It's part of your design. It's there for a reason. And we want to work with that. We don't want to work against it. We want to work with it. We want to help your body to work in its optimal fashion with digestion. So we're looking at a product that works in 2 phases. The first phase goes on in your stomach. That's the enzymes digesting food in your stomach, the amylase, the lipase, the invertase, the alpha-galactosidase, that's for gas, for flatulence, especially that you may develop from eating beans or legumes, okay? And of course, lactase for lactose. But then there's phase 2. And in phase 2, that's now below. Now you're in the intestinal tract, okay? Now in phase 2, you're going to need protease in a much more sophisticated form. Now these are all plant enzymes that have been cultivated to activate with various pH stimuli. And this is really cool. Plus all the other things you see there, we'll talk more about them in a minute. And by the way, notice the picture, folks. It's in a blister pack now. How cool is this? This is so good, because now if you're going out to eat, if you're going to a friend's house for dinner, then you'll be able to just take 1 page of the blister pack, stick it in your pocket, in your purse, whatever. Make sure you take those before you eat when you're out, instead of carrying a whole bottle in your pocket or wrapping it up in a tissue paper or whatever, all right? So this is so cool. Now there's no reason, there's no excuse for you not to have your enzymes before you eat. No excuse. No excuse not for you to digest and absorb in the most optimal way. So this product is pH activated. It helps you with acid stability. These are plant enzymes, as I mentioned. All right, so let's go back to the stomach for a minute. All right, so the stomach, somewhere between pH of 1 to 3, highly acidic. And what you'll see on the label are the words protease 3.0 and protease 4.5. Now the protease 3.0 will activate in the stomach. The 4.5 activates in the duodenum to help you digest your proteins beyond the stomach. That's important. And of course, lipase to digest your fats and the amylase for the carbohydrates that you have. Okay, now we make the transition from the stomach and the duodenum. We're going into the intestines. So we're looking at being able to digest all the way through this sort of long trip going down to the bottom of the sigmoid colon. Here, you need to have protein digestive enzymes that can activate in a pH of 5. That's towards the top of the intestines. By the time you get down to the very bottom of the sigmoid colon, now you're at a pH of 8, or at least you should be. So with this in mind, you've got these protease enzymes that continue to digest your proteins literally all the way down so that you can get even more benefit from what you've eaten. And don't eat the 72-ounce steak. I mean, don't even try it, okay? But eat healthy, eat reasonable. Even when you do eat reasonable, you are still very often going to find a need for additional digestive enzymes, and that's what we're about to cover. So, the lactose, we're going to talk about that significantly. Cellulase, to help release nutrition from vegetable fiber, okay? And also, again, the alpha-galactosidase for flatulence, okay? Well, what's the key driver, as they say in the marketing world? The key driver is mostly age. As we age, and there are other factors, but as we age, we tend to become less efficient each year at producing digestive enzyme. And lots of people would say, well, this happens when you get older and that happens when you get older. One thing we know when we get older is that we tend to have more nutritional problems as we age, and a lot of that is tied into digestive enzymes, being able to actually digest and absorb what you eat, not just eat, okay? Right now in Korea, we're looking at, and that's one of our biggest markets, of course, we're looking at a median age of 60 by the year 2045. Their population in Korea is continuing to age, and older people are continuing to live longer, which is a trend that we're seeing in most developed countries around the world. In the EU, by the year 2070, they tell us that 51% of the entire European population are going to be greater than 65 years of age. The general rule of thumb is that you're losing about 1% of your ability or your efficiency to produce your own digestive enzyme, a little more than 1% per year. Or let's do it in a 10-year block. So every 10 years, you're losing about 13% of your ability to produce digestive enzymes. Now we know that as you age, as people are becoming, quote, elderly, unquote, that they tend to have more nutrition-related problems. And a big part of that is because they're not producing sufficient digestive enzyme to actually pull the nutrition from the food they've eaten. A lot of what they've eaten is just literally going through without getting them the benefits. So if you start at age 40, you get to age 50, now you've lost 13%. Then you go from 50 to 60, and you've lost 26%. Think about that. So as you age, it gets a little bit worse. This is why at a certain age you say, you know, I didn't used to have a problem with that food, but I do now. Well, I didn't used to have gas when I ate that food, but now I do. I didn't used to have that problem with bloating, but now I do. Folks, it may simply be a need for enzymes and nothing more. Now, in our diet today, we eat a lot of food that has little or no enzyme content. Enzymes die around 117, 118 degrees Fahrenheit, or about 47 degrees Celsius. So they die at a fairly low temperature. Just about any kind of cooking is going to kill enzymes. Then on the other hand, you might say, well, then we'll just eat everything raw. Well, some things you can't eat raw, okay? I mean, you just can't, all right? But of the things you could eat raw, here's the problem. First of all the enzymes in the food don't digest all of the food, number one. Number two is that scientific study has shown that cooking foods like vegetables, I know the raw fooders are going to be upset about this, but the science is the science, okay? When you cook the food, it helps to release nutrition from the fibers of the vegetables. So eat it raw, get the enzymes. Eat it cooked, get the nutrients. You know, you have to make your own decisions on that, folks. Most people are going to eat it cooked. Approximately 65% of the human population has a reduced ability to produce an enzyme called lactase. Now, humans are designed, like all mammals, are designed to have mother's milk from the time they're born. And some of you won't like this, but the studies indicate, and you'll make your own decisions, of course, but the studies indicate that it would be normal, it appears to be normal, it appears to be by design for children to nurse for the first 24 months. And in fact, it's right around 24 months that about 65% of the population stops making lactase. The indication there is that they were making the lactase so that they could digest mother's milk. That's the whole idea. This is particularly common in people in East Asia, West Africa, the Arab and Jewish population, as well as Greeks, and many of Italian descent. So it's a fairly common deficiency in adults. And we have added lactase enzyme to Gi-Zyme to help you digest lactose sugar, okay? In virtually every food group that you would consume, no matter how exotic, there is an enzyme in this product to help you digest it. That's pretty cool. Now, we made some changes, and one of the changes we did is there's so many countries where we could not put the original US version of Gi-Zyme in these various countries, and for a lot of different reasons. A lot of times they just don't recognize, every country has their sort of list of approved things. Sometimes the lists never get upgraded, like for decades, all right? And so in some of our countries, it was okay to use bromelain, but not okay to use peptidase. So we removed the peptidase, we replaced it with bromelain. What do? They both digest protein, and they both digest protein almost exactly the same way. So you lose nothing, and now we have the ability to put Gi-Zyme into some countries that we could never get it into before. That's pretty cool. So that was a big improvement for us. Also, we have increased the level of one of my favorites, alpha-galactosidase. Alpha-galactosidase, again, that's the one if you get flatulence and bloating when you eat beans, legumes, any of those groups, alpha-galactosidase is the one you're deficient in. That's the enzyme you need. We've added our specific glyconutrients, Mannatech, Ambrogard, two most important glycans that there are anywhere as far as I'm concerned, and gum tragacanth and gum acacia, so that you get all of the different glycans that you would find in our Ambrotose technologies. Not in the specific and same proportion, but all of the same glycans that you would find in there. So that's really important because we know how important glycans are for cellular communication and therefore function. And of course, we have a new box and it's in a blister pack. So there's no excuse for you not having your Gi-Zyme with you when you go to a friend or to a restaurant or wherever you're going to go out to eat. So here's a quick look at the changes between the previous product and the new that I've just talked about, and this is sort of a little snapshot for you so you can see that. So this product is formulated, we're going to go through the approved benefits, all right, and there's quite a few. So this product is of course there to help you with digestion, but it's pH activated. That is so important. I don't know of another product in this industry, maybe there's one, but I haven't seen it, that uses this same technology so that you can digest your proteins starting in the stomach and keep digesting those proteins all the way down. Huge benefit. And since it's pH activated, where some of our competitors do things they call time release. Now what they do is they actually take an enzyme and they put a coating over it. They're hoping that between the heat of your body and the fluids in your body, that the coating will slowly erode around the enzyme and then release the enzyme. They call that time release. pH activated is far more sophisticated, and it's a much, much better approach. So this can help you obviously with any kind of discomfort that's associated with lack of enzyme. Again, if you eat a food, any food, doesn't matter what it is, if you don't have the enzyme to break it down, you're not going to feel good. And of course, this can help to support the gut-brain connection. We've added to this some ginger root. I can't even imagine doing a digestive product without ginger root. Ginger is so important to soothe and balance the stomach. It has so many benefits. So in that first part of digestion that you may have digestive discomfort in some cases. Peppermint leaf, again, we've already talked about that in this presentation, and that it helps with soothing the digestive tract, calming the digestive tract. And of course, fennel provides you with a number of phytonutrient benefits that are beneficial to gut health as well. And again, our no list, it's quite long, and it's exactly what you expect. The gluten-free, the non-GMO, vegan, vegetarian friendly, wherever possible, no artificial flavors or sweeteners, low glycemic, it won't raise your blood sugar, and it is a proprietary Mannatech formula. You will not see this blend anywhere else. This is a great enzyme blend. And of course, it's keto friendly if you're on that diet, it's low carb friendly if you're on that diet, and no soy, no dairy, no MSG, and preservative free. So that's quite a long no list.